Langang's Landing, and the storage tank replacement, which we'll talk about. Danielle, the storage tank replacement. We're gonna
Yes.
make a motion?
You want to talk about that now?
No,
Oh.
we'll talk about it on your, when you
Yeah.
guys are up.
Make a motion to
Oh,
approve.
we
it.
can't make any motions. We don't have a quorum yet.
Oh,
So let's
let
move
it go.
on, huh?
Let it go.
Let it go, move on. Communication 4A, the treatment superintendent's report.
Okay.
Don't read slow. Just give us the information there, Missy.
Okay, so you see here on page 1 that we've got all of our data, as you guys requested, we've got some historical data so you can see how things look from month to month instead of just throwing out numbers one at a time and not understanding what they mean. So I'm just gonna kind of go down this column and just highlight anything that sticks out. So as usual, our influent BOD, you look at October 23, the third line down, that is high, higher than our design, as is our influent TSS. So we've been talking about that for quite some time now. And our design loadings for BOD and suspended solids, the BOD is just about at our design average, and the suspended solids is quite high at 8,512 pounds per day. So those are the highlights there. Everything else is in line and within our permit limits, so we didn't have any issues. We had one that we had high total suspended solids, and this is something that happens kind of with the change of season. When the temperature changes as drastically as it has, we're like at 80-something degrees, and then we're down to the 30s. That changes our microbiology, and it makes things unsettled for like a couple days, even a couple weeks. So we're settled out now, but we did have one day of a high TSS, but that's okay. That happens, and that's to be expected. But if you look at our compliance, we're in compliance for everything. Our nitrogen, BOD, TSS, removal efficiency for BOD and TSS, all doing very well, all within compliance. If you go down to the bottom, our effluent nitrogen, I'm showing that we had a 100 pounds per day. It's actually lower than that, but we still had another week of data that didn't make it into this report because the report needed to get in. We're actually even lower, around 95 pounds per day, I think. So that's below our 106 pounds per day limit. So we're doing well with nitrogen removal, and we're doing well with our sludge removal as well. Going over.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Time out.
Yes,
One
sure.
second. A general question. How do you report all of this first page data to the state? I'm sure they don't want paperwork.
No.
You guys,
So-
you guys fill it out online, correct?
There is a process. So there is an electronic discharge monitoring report that goes to the EPA that we fill out every month. That is online. We go to the EPA Central Data Exchange website and put all the information in. Then we've got something called a monthly operator report, which is basically just an Excel spreadsheet. It's 5 pages long. That is something that the DEEP requires us to fill out every month. So the MO, our monthly operator report, goes to DEEP, and then the discharge monitoring report is electronic, and that goes.
So
to
most of this
EPA.
first page on concentration, loading, and compliance is on that report.
All of that is on the report.
Okay.
And much more. This is kind of a condensed version, just to not bore
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
with crazy numbers.
Okay.
Okay, just moving on, page 2, nothing really to note here. We haven't had any accidents, we haven't had any odor complaints, we haven't had any noise complaints. We didn't have any storms to report. I kind of added that in here as a new section down the bottom. No real significant impacts to our flows this month, so that was good. And I have this other section here, influent updates. This is just tracking when we get strange things coming into the plant. And I just kind of keep a rolling, record of that, of when we see things that don't really belong in the system coming in. And we're trying our best to, backtrack and figure out where the stuff comes from, but it's really hard to investigate. You need a lot of time and people, and have to go pull manhole covers and keep looking all upstream from a pump station or from a plant. And that's tough to do, catch this stuff. So we try, but this one here, October 10th, if you look down there, it says significant oil sheen. We saw that in our influent wet well. That did kind of upset our microbiology. We did That is part of the reason why we also experienced a high solids one day, because this one particular tank that was filling at the time of the oil being present, it did affect our microbiology, and that takes weeks to come back from. So we're just waiting.
What are we thinking that's coming from? Somebody open up a
Can't tell.
manhole?
Can't tell. And it's like, we're, you know, we could go in so many different directions.
It's like a
to look.
needle in a haystack.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe at some point when we do this, when we do the flow analysis when we, with Fuss and O'Neill, we can start thinking about a place to put monitors.
Yeah.
Some kind of monitor to see if we can, are there monitors, Virgil, that would pick up something different than effluent? Like if there's oil or there's something mixed in it, is there?
Like some of the parameters that Danielle tests for, not really.
the best we could do is maybe a COD analysis to see if there's something off the charts, like do a 24-hour
Right,
sample, like non-composite, like do.
right, you could do something like that, like really kind of high level kind of. Sampling just like that for COD and then. Exactly. So,
The easier things to track would be colors. We get reds and blues in quite often, and we don't know where that's coming from. And we do see that also at River Road Pump Station, so at least that narrows down some of the, you know, the direction from which it's coming, but then from River Road Pump Station, you know, go upstream of that, where's it coming from? So, you know, to get out there and try to, you know, pop manhole covers and work backwards to look for the color is tough.
I guess what it come down to is how often are we getting this?
We
It's
were
just-
getting something almost every Friday, and now all of a sudden, well, we've been okay for like 2 weeks maybe, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like that every year at around, if I remember, March or April, we get that high inflow of heavy solids. As if somebody is opening up a manhole and dumping a septic truck down into the manhole. Remember, we talked about that over the past 3 or 4 years? That it seems to happen like every time at the same time of year. So one of these haulers, I feel I know who it is, but I'm not gonna say who it is, but,
we all.
huh?
We all.
I think
Right,
everybody knows where it's
exactly.
coming from, yeah.
Is opening at the middle of the night and opening up a manhole and dumping.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, what's it cost them to dump those trucks out in Bridgeport, $1,000 a truck?
$150.
That's it?
Yeah, it's not that.
Oh, then it's not even worth it it's not worth it getting.
It
caught.
really isn't.
$150?
That's why they all go there.
Yeah, it's,
They don't matter what you got on the truck either.
yeah, they don't care so much about what you give them either.
Grease.
Grease doesn't matter.
Bridgeport takes grease along with septic pumps together. They don't differentiate.
No.
That's weird.
Bridgeport.
Okay, all right, keep going.
So page 3 is just our pump station grease removal. So in October, we removed 1,225 pounds of grease. So you see our grease is kind of creeping up. We're seeing a lot more grease at the pump station. So it's good that we catch it there before it comes to our plant. That wreaks havoc on our plant as well.
It's
Okay.
amazing the difference between last year and this year.
Yeah.
For September and October. What's going on here, Pete?
We got
Pasta,
more
pasta,
restaurants.
pasta day?
Yeah, pasta day or something, more restaurants.
People are going out to eat more, I guess.
And
now.
they're going out to eat.
All right,
So this maintenance page, page 4, so I've mentioned that Jayton Bertito is our chief mechanic, and he's now implemented the fixed maintenance program, which is like a software program that he puts all of our equipment into, and it spits out work orders that are printed every day and assigned to the staff. And they know, and they've all been trained on, you know, where to change oil, how to grease this, how to clean that, they've all been trained on that, and it's been implemented, and it's working really well for us. So now all that maintenance is documented for future reference. If you have any issues, we've got, you know, make model serial numbers of everything, so it's easier to order parts and replacements for things. And it's not 100% complete. This is a work in progress, but he's gotten so much done on it. And it's working really well for us. And this program was very inexpensive in comparison to some of the others. We priced out some things that were upwards of $10,000, $20,000. This cost us $500. So this was a great investment, and it's really helping us with everything at the plant. Our chief operator, Bill Marcusio, has been doing daily rounds of the entire facility, and he's going around recording all the pertinent information about equipment and plant performance. And then he comes to myself and the chief mechanic, and if there's anything broken or sounds funny, looks funny, something that isn't right, it isn't operating properly, and then we get on it for corrective action. And Garrett here, as the laboratory analyst, he's doing all of the in-house testing, and he's reporting everything to DEEP for our NPDES permit. And he also did pass all of the required performance evaluations this year there's an annual EPA required study, and he performed every test perfectly. So we got 100 on that. Good job, Garrett.
Nice job, Garrett.
Very nice.
It's all in the teacher.
And then, so just carrying on with maintenance, we did a lot of great maintenance. Last couple of months have been quite busy. So we had Coney Crane on site to inspect all our cranes and hoists, because we did have several of them that were just rusted and unusable, unworkable. And really, that's a safety issue. So we want to make sure that we get everything looked at and taken care of. The chlorine contact tanks were cleaned. Everything was inspected, all the hardware, piping, chlorine delivery components, and everything is tip-top shape there. So those guys work diligently down in the tanks, cleaning everything and checking everything. And everything is ready for winter operation. We have heat trace in certain places that we hardwired in to stop things from freezing. So we're kind of in winter mode right now. The Bridgeport Avenue pump station was receiving a lot of odor complaints. So the crew replaced all the carbon media in the odor control system. There's a carbon filtration system in there, and that carbon was spent. So the crew went in there, took all the old stuff out. We got new carbon pellets and filled that back up, and now there's actually airflow, and it's eaten up the odors pretty well, and we haven't had any complaints since the guys did that. So that was a good thing. Then we had a 2-inch copper plant water pipe that every year we have to shut the plant water off to the whole section of the plant, because this pipe would stay charged and would freeze if there's no way to isolate it. So the guys dug that out and went below the frost line and put in a valve and a curb box. So now we could still continue to have plant water where we need it and when we need it all year long, and not have to shut it down during the winter months. So that's great. And we've been painting and just doing some basic, maintenance around the plant, and we got rid of a lot of brush and weeds and trees and cleaned up all the debris on the riverside, especially. There was a lot of stuff there. You couldn't even see out to the outfall pipe. Now you can go right out there. So that's what we've been up to. And then just going to the next section, open bids. So we all know that the sodium hypochlorite tank replacement is the hot item. We need to get that done before our next disinfection season. As of this afternoon, I haven't seen any bids yet. That bid closes Tuesday.
But you said Friday.
They extended it to Tuesday because Friday is a holiday.
Oh,
And
that's right.
Monday, everybody's off here. They did extend it
So
to
then
Tuesday.
plan B is you guys to do it.
Yeah, so plan B, board, if nobody bids, we could take care of this ourselves, acquire the tank. The tank, though, does cost $38,000 and change delivered. That would be like a sole source situation, because the company that originally supplied that tank, I've been in touch with them, and they can supply that tank again. All the bolt holes would match. The ladder mounting would be exactly the same. Everything would be exactly the way we need it, to just kind of plug and play the old tank and the new tank. So if we don't get anybody to bid on it, we just need to order that tank. If we could get approval from the board for the funds, or we could, this is just my plan B. Nobody bids, because I don't want to waste a moment of time.
We're gonna wait until well, yeah, we're gonna wait until what's his name,
There.
one more board member comes in, then we're gonna vote on it. And then you and I are gonna talk Tuesday about what the plan B is gonna be.
That sounds good. So I just wanted to give the board the heads up
Yeah.
that that might be the direction we'll have to take in an
Yeah,
effort. to
I'm
get
sorry,
this done.
Larry's on his way. That's what we're gonna do. We'll wait until Larry comes in, we'll vote on this, and then we'll go to plan B if you don't get anything.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know I don't know public bidding. I only know private bidding. I don't know if you're allowed to go as a sole source on that tank because you
So
can,
we are.
right?
Yeah, you can.
So we
You
are. So I
can?
did check with purchasing already.
checked with them?
Just to make sure. And so if we do our due diligence, we go through the bidding process. If nobody bids, then we, there is a sole source for that tank. And so all we would have to do is just sole source that, get a PO for it.
What time
and
is it due
proceed.
Tuesday, the bid?
Sorry?
What time is the bid due
I think
Tuesday?
Probably 11 o'clock usually is the time.
Well, why wouldn't the sole source company do it on it anyway?
Because we put out the bid for the whole project,
Right.
for the piping,
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, okay.
Which-
Okay, that's fine.
My crew
Innocent.
can do. I mean, I have 2 licensed plumbers that work for us, so we can definitely handle it. It's not difficult. It's just the biggest part is getting the old tank out and the new tank in, and that should be a 1-day thing with the crane. We could take the old out and put the new in a day.
Okay, so the bid that's being opened Tuesday is more scope to it.
It's the whole project.
The whole
The whole
project.
project, that's right.
That's,
And then we put out we don't have an on-call electrical contractor. We need one.
I thought you guys, don't you use,
That was a nightmare.
was it?
Yeah, guys,
They
circus clowns, and it didn't work out.
did not work out. They
sorry,
just,
I'm late.
not a problem. They just were a no-show. They just went off the face of the earth. We have no idea where they are taking them.
Cabinets. The,
All right, so while we're talking and you're here, because now we have a quorum, we can vote. So the bid for the hypochlorite tank replacement goes in Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Danielle's thinking, and I'm not telling you I disagree with her, but she's thinking we're not gonna get any bids. It's too early to tell. You know how bidding works. We all know how bidding works.
I saw it today and.
Right, so if we don't get any bids, the plan B is we're gonna do the work ourselves. We're gonna order the tank ourselves. We're gonna order through the company in Massachusetts that we were talking about.
I don't have the name, I forgot.
And then all we'll do is we're gonna vote tonight to in the event we don't get any bids on Tuesday.
Today I looked. One of the services I get, there's no bidders.
And the bid was supposed to close Friday, but they did extend it to Tuesday.
Yeah, so,
historically, they come in an hour. before.
And they may, and that's fine. If it
yeah,
does,
but what I'm
great.
trying to tell you, I'm in the business, I get a service that tells you who bids all these jobs. There's no bidders yet.
Right,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. So if we don't get
Yeah.
any, I just wanted to have a plan B.
So the plan B is we're gonna make the decision. And next week, Danielle and I and anybody else that you guys want will help, we'll get it moving for purchasing the tank. All right,
Sounds good. Yeah, and the gentleman from the tank company who supply it, he seems great. He's just like, if you need anything, he seems like ready to go. They're ready to basically order the tank when we tell them. And I said, it all depends on what happens with the bid. So
Matt, did you put is there a budget on this that you put together?
We were doing it under the treatment plan, kind of general on-call.
I'm just saying, no, a budget a budget for the entire
Oh, yeah, we're.
60, 70,000,
that's about
80,000?
what we're thinking, 60.
All right.
The biggest cost is the tank, and then we just about double the price of the tank.
You're talking about a $60,000 or $70,000.
Well,
if we did it, it's not gonna cost that.
No,
much.
I'm just saying if it's bid out.
If it's bid out, yeah.
What's that?
if they do it, it's, the money outlay is gonna be the cost of the tank, plus, figuring out how you're gonna. seal tank.
All I want to know is here's what I always say to people. It's not going to cost you much money. Well, what's not much money? Is it $5? Is it $5,000 or is it $500,000? I hate when people say, don't worry about it. I worry about it because this 60 to me, if I didn't ask the question and it's 120, it's like, holy crap, 120,000 for this tank? I hate surprises. I only want to go home and have a nice glass of wine, and my wife tells me that's your surprise for tonight. I don't like surprises, and he'll tell you that, right? He'll tell you that. Larry will tell you that.
Yeah.
Larry, tell me the cost. I just want to know. Give me a budget. So I'm okay with 60 because I just want to make sure we understand that if it's less, that's great. If we do it ourselves, that's
If we
great.
do it ourselves, the tank itself delivered is 38,000 and change, $39,000.
So you get another $5,000 or $6,000 worth of material,
Crane and material.
Graham here.
They
right?
got this thing listed in Connect, Construct Connect, which is
Yeah,
a service for $2 million.
that's the budget and the
What?
service.
Yeah, that's what it says in the service.
That's.
Hope you're wrong, Matt. I mean, I hope you're right, Matt. Well, I'm
I'm
joking.
just telling you that,
Really? That's interesting. All right, so with that, so we're gonna preempt this. We'll vote on it. If it doesn't come in Tuesday, then the vote's made and we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on with it.
Awesome.
That sound fair to you guys?
That sounds perfect. Thank
So
you.
who wants to make a motion?
Motion,
Larry's gonna make the motion that if the bid doesn't come in on Tuesday and there's no bidders, we're gonna take it on ourselves in-house. Everybody understand the motion? You want to second it?
Second it.
Seconded by Mr. Miko, that if the bid doesn't come in Tuesday, we're gonna take it in-house and we're gonna do the replacement ourselves with you guys. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that's that.
Okay, so then just wrapping this up, so the electrical services is also still out to bid until Tuesday. So that's just something we really need, but historically speaking, not too many people bid on that either. I don't know if we're just small potatoes or what. Future work, this is.
Oh, time out.
Yes,
Question, Garrett.
Yeah.
I was talking to Bill the other day. What's the guy's name out of Torrington that put did the drains in the side of the
that
SBRs?
was me, we're talking to you about.
Was that you?
Couldn't think of it, yeah.
Correct.
Huh?
Kovac.
Kovacs.
Kovacs.
That's
They're Oxford.
Kovacs.
They're in Oxford.
Kovacs,
Oxford.
yeah.
Oxford, yeah.
Well, I was saying, we were talking about it the other day. And I said, I can't remember the guy's name. It was like right here,
I know.
Kovacs.
They are the ones that actually did all the pump stations. too.
Yeah, right. So that's a name to keep in mind. I'm surprised.
I'm familiar with.
You
them.
see, somebody like him would do this. This would be a perfect little job for a Kovacs.
Nickerson took the bid, but I don't know.
They-
downloaded.
They downloaded it?
Yeah.
RH White, a lot of.
Oh, Irish White did too?
Railroad.
They downloaded it too?
I think there were like 17
Yeah.
downloads or something.
Some welding guy, a whole bunch.
So why are you worried that you're not gonna get any bids?
I don't think you're gonna get-
Experience.
Small job.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, so future work, we did talk about that blower gasket leak project with the air.
Mhm.
We showed all the pictures of the air leak and everything. That, we haven't forgotten about that. That's just something that kind of got put on a back burner because we had so many other things going on. But that's something that, we'd like to go forward with at some point. Where were we with that, Matt? You presented some stuff, and then did we kind of get off track? What happened?
Yeah, we put that on the back burner while we're getting the chemical storage tank designed out of the way, so it sounds like we'll know for sure what's happening with that, and and yes, I can move forward with the air piping. We're also we're gonna take a look to see if it's consistent air loss of the whole entire system. But tanks 1 and 2 were built first, and then they went and did tank 3 and 4, SBRs 3 and 4 later. So we want to see if they actually, maybe they fixed their own mistake underground, the contractor. But if they didn't, then all the air piping.
Is this
Did we get any
something?
numbers on this yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Is this something we want to get started on now? Is it critical to do it now? You want to get this bid over with and get the hypochlorite tank moving, then we can
Yeah, and
concentrate on
then
that next one?
Chlorine's way more important.
Definitely.
That's.
All right. All right, so let's just hold off on the blower gasket for now.
Yeah, okay.
Is that all right
Yeah.
with you guys?
We've lived with it for this long, we can go.
All right. All right, next time, let's move on.
All right, so then just, we've got the scum removal. There's scum removal on all of our SBRs that hasn't been working in years, so we're gonna fix all that, and get it working again. And we have
Oh, the rope is broken, Garrett?
everything.
The hose is dried out.
No,
The hoses are dried out,
the
the
rope,
pumps
remember,
were-
remember Alan?
Oh, the rope, yeah. We just got rid of the last one of those the other day.
Did you really?
The
You
dual
could
pole
just-
thing, yeah.
Remember him taking us to the top of the SBR tank? Look, you can
Just drag it.
grab this end of the rope and this end of the rope,
Drag.
and we can drag it along the tank. And what did he have dangling from it? I don't remember.
Big orange boom.
Big orange, the boom,
Tank,
the
pump
boom.
Down 2 feet in the water.
That was Alan being Alan.
So we're gonna fix that, so it's a little more workable. And then, Aaron Associates has been made aware to go ahead with the, pump station controls upgrades that were voted on. And that's gonna be Bridgeport Avenue and Beard Sawmill. It's gonna be the first two to go. And that really concludes my report. Does everybody have any questions?
Now, any other questions for Danielle or Garrett?
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Danielle. Budget worksheet. I don't,
Well, you wanna go, Mike, you wanna go back to approve minutes and meetings?
yeah, let's do that while everybody's here. Let's go back and Mr. Chuck to approve the meeting dated October 11th and the special meeting dated October 19th. Motion from Mr. Chuck, the second from Larry, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, good idea, Bill. Budget worksheet, let's just, I'm not interested in the budget worksheet right now, unless you want to talk about it. All right, move on, budget worksheet,
Too early.
5A, Fountain Square Chick-fil-A. So what we've got is, we had a workshop with myself, Bill, Danielle,
I wasn't there.
who else was, I don't remember who else was there.
Done.
Oh, and Matt, we had a workshop a couple weeks ago. So what it comes down to seats at this point. So the seating that they had originally for restaurant one was 50 seats, and it's 45 gallons per day per seat. So I think Mr. Thomas was using the wrong math because I'm not sure he understood how it worked. But now we go from restaurant one, 50 seats, now it's restaurant one, 131 seats. And we're taking the highest seating rating based on outside. Because if he tries to tell us, well, I only want, was it 100 seats for inside?
116.
116 seats for inside, and all of our comments was, well, what happens when he opens up in the summertime and he wants all those seats? We're gonna max them out and we're gonna tell him it's 131 seats. So, and we're gonna use 45 gallons per day. That's the math that Matt gave us. And so the flow now is 5,895 gallons, and that comes out to be. So we decided, and so you do the 5895 divided by the 210 gallons per day per EDU. There's 28 EDUs. He wanted, Mr. Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, 46,000.
He had two numbers, 42 and 40.
He had two numbers that were less than ours. We're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. We're gonna give him 28 EDUs based on 131 seats at 45 gallons per day. And Matt, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong here. We're gonna use 28 EDUs, $2,100 per EDU. We're gonna give him last year's EDU rate for $58,000. He's gonna be paying another $10,000 or $15,000 more than he believes on the project because he's doing the math wrong. Anybody understand what I said? Does it need any clarification? You look perplexed.
Oh, I'm thinking I went by the place. The last couple of nights, 58,000 isn't enough.
Well,
Yeah, because you're pulling in a lot more than
Not
you
on,
think.
not me.
well, that's why we went with 131 seats. Because,
It's an absolute nut house. So.
yeah, so we went with 131 seats instead of the 115 that he showed for indoor seating. See, well, our comment was he's gonna max the place out in the summertime. He's opened the patio. We're gonna take all of the 131 seats. So you presented this to Mr. Thomas, correct, Bill?
I emailed him.
Okay.
He called me back. He says, what's this? They don't look any different. He says, yeah, they are. It's a 50 seat one and 131. Well, you charging me for the outside? He says, yeah, those big. Then, okay, I'll get back to you. I'll bring it back from.
The 2,100 on the EDU, that could be for this year as well. or-
Okay, so
No.
now that's another good question. we agreed, people sitting in the room that day at the special meeting, I think Don was there too, that we're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt for the 2,100, the old rate. Anything new now is gonna go up to the $2,600 per EDU rate. Okay, so here's something that Ashley did a nice job, and we talked about it, and I'm just gonna talk about it real quick. Is back in January 18th of this year, we had a special meeting. And this is when Ernie was around and Bill was just out plunging out toilets. He wasn't a real guy yet. Page 2, application expiration date. And I'll kind of just read it real. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we talked about initiating a conversation by pointing out how many applications were approved by the board that were left waiting to be developed. And what we're talking about here was, okay, do we allow, and I'm going to ask, a little bit of guidance maybe from you guys. We had Ash, can you do me a favor later on? Can you send this to everybody so they know what I'm reading later on? But we need to have a special meeting. This is my fault. I guess it fell through the crack. I said we should have a special meeting to talk about what's the expiration date of these projects, meaning, and it all came up when we talked about Fountain Plaza.
Right.
And are we going to allow them to still do 2,100 EDUs? And at what point do we cut them off and say, nope, you're not going to get $21 an EDU anymore. You're going to pay the 26 for EDU. So the planning and zoning, and Don had made a comment in here that he didn't understand, which is okay. He didn't quite understand it. He wanted more information, which is okay. That's why you have these meetings. And that we were saying, well, we're going to follow planning and zoning's mandate that you get 2 years Mr. Ramia clarifies, the chairman and the WPCA administrator, that 2-year initiation and a 5-year completion rule is something that the Shelton P&Z department already has in place. It expresses that he has no opposition to the rule. We need, and long and short of this whole thing is, we need to have cutoff dates for when, because Fountain Plaza is like a classic example, and who knows whenever else it's going to happen. There's a lot of work on River Road, that we get somebody that starts and they hold on to this property for 5 years. We're not holding the $2,100 in EDU rate. We're gonna have to have a cutoff that if you don't start at a certain time after we approve your application, you're gonna move up if we happen to have a new rate increase. Let's say in December we have a rate increase. We say we want to start charging $2,100 or $3,000 in ETU, and we say we give them 1 year. Well, if they go beyond the 1 year, then they're going to pay the increase. They're not going to pay the old rate. So this is something we really need to clarify. We're going to need kind of your help on this, Matt. And I apologize. I said here in the back that we need to have a special meeting. I apologize. I guess I dropped the ball on it because we never had a special meeting. So Ashley will send this to you. But look on page 2. It's 2B, application expiration date. It'll tell you what we spoke about at the special meeting. Mr. Ramey was there, Mr. Chuck there, Mr. Emily, and Mr. Duncan was there. Matt, you were there. So
What we were thinking we could do at that time was to add another paragraph to the instructions for the benefit connection charge application form. And that new paragraph, which you would make a motion to approve,
right.
Would basically say what you're saying. They have 2 years to get started on the project. Otherwise, the application expires and comes to the board again.
Right.
That's the simplest way to do
You
that.
can't do that either. How do you do that? Give them 2 years?
Well, these are the discussions we got to have.
Yeah, you gotta talk about this. You can't.
We're gonna talk about it. We're having a special meeting to talk about it. He's not saying that we are giving him.
That was the most simplest thought we had, but we didn't flush out the details.
Right, exactly.
Every decision has consequences, and we certainly don't want to make a decision that makes your life more difficult. So we should talk about it.
My bills keep coming. Doesn't matter. They go up.
They can put more than 2,600
Yeah, that's what I'm
EDU.
saying.
Huh?
He's look, that's why we gave him 21, anything after that, we can't give it to him, it's impossible. You're already over 5 years on that project.
Yep,
Same prices as 5 years ago is not the same as today.
No. So I'm gonna recommend a special meeting, you know, maybe next week. Does anybody want to be a part of it? I'll have Ashley, Bill and I will talk about it with Ashley, and we'll send out a couple of dates and everybody can pick the date about the special meeting. And Matt, which, I mean, I prefer the end of the day on like a Thursdays, Wednesdays or Thursdays are better for me.
Boston on Wednesday for training, so that's the only day.
Okay,
4:30.
we can do that if you want to be here. As many people as possible. I want everybody to understand what we're talking about here, because it's going to affect us going down the road and having somebody stand there and fight us about 2,100 versus 2,600. All right, anything else on that special meeting? Ash and I and Bill will talk, we'll send out something. Anything else on what the EDU for the benefit connection charge for Chick-fil-A? Everybody understands this one?
If you want to get to the very last paragraph there where we try to clarify Bill's point, well.
Sure, what do you?
Yeah, I can just say. So basically what we said is that, we're requiring the applicant to resubmit the completed, sewer connection activities for the latest version prior to approval of the remaining certificate of occupancy. The last paragraph. We're trying to avoid ambiguity and kind of this sort of last minute rush or dash to get to the proof. So what we're asking the applicant for is to resubmit the form with the actual tenant information as early as possible, so we can just sort of calculate the value, so kind of match up something from 5 years ago.
I've already had 4 of them come through. I told them they need to fill out an application. I gotta talk to you about another one because I don't know how the numbers work on this one. But I'll talk to you later on that one. But I haven't had any payments yet. They've been all approved and everything and just waiting for the payment, but of course I haven't heard from Dominic. Yeah.
All right, anything else on that? One other thing I think I wanted to talk about, or Matt, we can wait until you're up. All right, Fuss and O'Neill, 5B. Not up.
Like there's Mike.
Right now, exactly what you want.
What is 5B?
5B is Fuss and O'Neill. He's handing out.
Pulling it out now. Oh, okay.
Let's walk through this. I mean, either way, this might be more simpler. Where would you like us to stand in topic? At this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can speak in the mic.
Okay. We'll need a copy over here.
All right, so 5B also, and Virgil. So just for Bill's edification, 5B is also part of this right here. Draft.
Part of this.
Well, it's part of, yeah, actually,
Yes.
it's both of them. This is
They
a
don't have
simplified,
copies.
that's a simplified version. This is the long version.
That's pretty much it.
They don't have the
Right?
long
Yeah.
version.
I have the long version.
So, well, thanks very much to have you in here tonight. As you know, my name's Virgil Lloyd. With me is Doug Brzee, who's will be the project manager on the project that we're going to be talking about here right now, the facilities planning update. And as we've been working through developing the scope of work for this over the last few months, we've had a number of meetings with Mike and Bill and Danielle and others and to develop this, to make sure that, that we developed the scope so it addressed all the issues that were important to the city. And so I think we're there. I think we have a pretty good document. It's a really long document that you have there. You can see that Word document is quite long. But as we were going through those meetings, I think it might have been Danielle who suggested that it might be helpful for us to just step back just a little bit or come in tonight and just kind of give sort of a high level view on what facilities planning really is. And so that's kind of what we wanted to do tonight, as well as, Doug's here. He can walk through the kind of high level view of the scope of the facilities plan document that you have tonight. So based on that, that's really what we wanted to do. The facilities planning is it's a very intense planning effort, and it's defined by the Connecticut DEEP. They provide money in the form of a grant reimbursement to the town for performing the study. It's a 55% grant. And it's a requirement to do this study to access their money later on and through what they call the Clean Water Fund to perform any kind of capital projects that might be identified as necessary at the plant during the work of performing the study itself. So it's a study that requires looking at other planning documents that the city has, recently adopted or has adopted, like a plan of conservation development, planning and zoning documents, inland wetlands, any kind of watershed protection. We look at all those kinds of things. So it's very, very kind of comprehensive look at what the planning area, what the town's needs are, and what the town's goals are for as far as development may go, or conservation aspects. So as we do that, and that's really, this first kind of document or page we have here shows, the facilities plan stakeholders. And so there's also quite a bit of public involvement or outreach, various steps along the process where we reach out to solicit any, give the public a chance to be heard, to see if there's any comments they may want to provide to the team as the program develops. And there's a schedule in there that Doug will look at, or talk about it a little bit in a moment. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that the planning process, it's not something that you would do every day. Of course, it's actually required or desired by the DEEP that towns do this every 20 years. That's the planning horizon that's defined for the report. There's a number of requirements that DEEP requires must be addressed in the report. So some of these things are optional. Quite a few are not. Doug will be hitting on some of those details in a few minutes.
But aren't these 12 items on here the ones that through when our Zoom calls that we've decided were the ones that we're going to do, correct?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Took some of them out and got rid of some of them. We kind of simplified it.
Exactly
Yes.
right. There is it's not a total, prescriptive process by DEEP, but it's there are things that, if in your opinion are not relevant or don't need to be investigated as deeply, and for this community, I say for another community, there is some flexibility in that way as they approach it. So maybe with that, I'll just let Doug talk about the scope a little bit more. And please interrupt us at any time with any questions. We'd like to keep it a little more less formal. Yeah. So Doug, go ahead.
So like Virgil alluded, we really wanted to take a high level look at this and take a step back and see, why are we doing this and why is it required? Virgil touched on a lot of those items. Moving on to kind of the approach and team slide. Excuse me. What we're proposing, obviously the city of Shelton as the owner, Fuss and O'Neill would be the prime. Given this project, we are seeking planning grants through Connecticut DEP. We do have to meet participation requirements for what you see here as WBE, which is a women-owned business enterprise, as well as a minority-owned business enterprise. So a portion of the scope of work needs to be allocated to them for their participation to remain eligible to get that 55% grant. And what we're proposing to use is a local MBE to help with the flow capacity evaluations and really help crunch the data once we get the DMR data from the city. And then the women-owned business enterprise is going to be helping with an energy audit. They have some familiarity with the plant, having done an evaluation in the past, dating back a few years. And then the last subcontractor that we have listed here is Raftellus. We've worked with them on previous facilities plan. They are a rate consultant that helps municipalities, really develop a financial plan and will help the city understand what kind of sewer rate implications are necessary to support the recommendations that would be coming out of the facilities plan. So their scope of work would largely be the cost of service as well as the cost modeling to help us establish that and what those implications are based on our evaluation and recommendations.
Okay, so if I'm gonna marry up your facility plan schedule to timeline, which I like.
Yep.
Virgil knows that. I'm a timeline guy. You're gonna do all of this stuff over the course of a 12-month period.
That is what we're proposing, and that's what's shown on that approach and facility plan schedule.
Basically, it's from January to December. It's the entire year next year.
Yep.
So we're gonna spend $297,000 of your services over the course of a 12-month period.
Correct.
Right.
That's the, and that cash flow was basically developed on a recent facility plan effort that we developed in looking at the
Okay, here's my
invoices for
next
that.
question.
Yes.
You just said the word. What did you just say?
What's that?
Cash flow.
Cash flow.
There's a curve for cash flow.
Yep.
Can you get me the curve for the cash flow?
Absolutely. We can develop that.
It's the bell
Yep.
curve. So the good news here is that DEP is gonna give us, we have to pay out the 297,000, tell me if I'm wrong. We have to pay out the 297,000, then DEP will give us a 55% grant. So our out of pocket's 130,000.
It's over. Yeah.
What is the time frame for that? So we finish next year, 2024, December. You guys certify everything and it gets sent in. How long does it take for you guys to certify the work and then refunding of money? How does that usually work?
So we would invoice the city monthly
Right.
based on whatever work was done, which would be that cash flow, Doug, and you were just discussing. And then at the, for a planning study, because in DEP's perspective, it's, it's not, it's a relatively small project compared to like the construction projects that they get involved with, which are many millions of dollars. They would prefer to see a single reimbursement request come in from the city after the work is completed. And so their staffing, frankly, is, there's a lot of work going on. They have a lot going on in their office, so they're not super fast in getting, reimbursements out to communities as they have been in the past. Not sure if I answer your question, but it'd be sometime after we completed. If it happened in that year following that December completion, that would be, I would say, later in that year rather than.
So everybody does understand, because it's hard. This is planning only. This is not design or construction. And then that's gonna take on a whole life of its own. I mean, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be retired, you're gonna be gone, and we're all gonna be gone. And Doug, you're gonna be the only one around when we start implementing this project. Because that'll be the next thing over the course of next year. I'm gonna ask you guys to put together, not necessarily yet the cost, because we're not gonna know that, but some kind of, once you've done all your planning, now we're gonna need to know what's it gonna take for design, development, and, eventually construction at some point.
And that would be part of the facilities plan. We would, based on our evaluation, put forth recommendations, and those recommendations would include, an engineer's estimate of opinion of cost. And that would also then bring in the involvement of Raftellus to help us understand how the city could fund these projects. But we would be providing engineering estimates as part of the effort for the recommended improvements that come out of the facility plan. But you're right in that it's just a planning document. The design and construction would be at a subsequent time.
What's our obligation to the state? We're gonna pay you 297,000 less 163. What's our obligation to actually do the work? I mean, are we obligated to do the work once we sign this document?
You're not obligated to do the work. I mean, obligated to perform the facilities plan?
Yeah.
No, you're not obligated to perform that.
Okay, so we want a new facilities plan for starters. And that's what this 297 is gonna get us, a new facilities plan. What we do after that is up to us.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And
Right.
by doing the facility plan, you make yourself eligible for getting an approved facility plan from Connecticut DEP, you make yourself eligible to seek potential funding opportunities and grant opportunities during the design and construction phase.
Yeah.
Subsequent to that, they're not as nearly high percentage as 50% grant, but we've seen 20 to
Yeah.
30% or depending on
Exactly,
the
yeah,
project.
that makes a good point. One of the big advantages of doing a facilities plan is that it unlocks it gives you access to DEEP's Clean Water Fund money. And right now, they have money available for construction projects. So say there was some major capital project was needed at the treatment plant. This study would allow you to access that, and currently they're funding projects like that at 80% low interest loan. It's 2% loan, amortized for 20 years. 3% grant component. Any portion of the project that relates to nutrient reduction would qualify for another additional 10%. So the nitrogen removal components would qualify for 30% grant. And they have a few other set asides that have some grants, grant components that perhaps might be something that might be identified as needs in the study. Things like a vulnerability type of analysis or
Resiliency type
yeah,
grants they have
resiliency type
available.
of improvements. They qualify for some special set aside. Energy improvements, that's a separate category. And so there's a few categories like that. By doing this study, you would provide access to that money. Without a facilities plan study, you would not be able to use, you can't use any state money. Like even if there was some DECD or other funding, you need to have an approved planning study to spend on any state money.
Well, we need to do it anyway, so that's a given that,
Right.
we're gonna take 133 in the end out of our
One thing I
sinking
wanted
fund.
to point out here, and Mike, you made a good observation earlier about, the items there that, those 12 items or whatever it was that you were talking about. One of the sections we threw in there, and this was something that came out of our meetings with the city staff, was about the flow allocation. We put a little extra effort in there trying to make that drill down a little more deeply on some of the questions that we've had and that the city's been dealing with over the last few years, or going back to the original flow allocation that was done years and years ago. So we have that sort of flexibility. That's what that was how we developed the scope over those several meetings and several months.
Nope,
To the
absolutely.
microphone.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot
Yeah.
your way.
Yeah, so hopefully I just realized I'm not,
Realize what?
I just realized I was stepped back from the microphone a little bit.
Anything for Doug or Virgil?
Just if we want to quickly walk through the timeline that Mike had alluded to, just to give you a sense of kind of what scope tasks would be included. Initially we would obviously do a kickoff with all the stakeholders. At that time, we'd also, start soliciting historical documentations as well as backup information for the cost of service, which would be conveyed to Raftellus, so they could kind of begin their background research. Existing conditions is one of the tasks identified in the scope of work. We'd have a workshop. Really, as part of that effort, we'd do an evaluation of the treatment plant as well as the 5 pump stations is what we have scoped. That first workshop would be kind of what are the findings of that first task, and kind of go through that. Once we have a prioritized list of, what are the needs, at both the treatment plant as well as the pump stations, we'll work through basically an alternatives workshop. And this is a requirement from Connecticut DEP for the funding, is they want to see an alternatives evaluation actually done to make sure you're going with the most feasible, most cost-effective solution. So we would go through that process again, have another workshop to solicit stakeholder input. And then moving forward is really where we'd have milestone for the facility plan itself. So the full document, if you will, which really is the final deliverable. We have a 60% facility plan, another workshop to discuss that. We'll progress through that. At that point, when the 60% is developed and we have an understanding of what the proposed improvements are, we'll start, putting together engineering estimates for the proposed improvements. And we'll be working with Raftellus during that process to basically develop the financial plan, which you see happening kind of just before September timeframe. And then as we kind of push towards the finish line here, we have a 90% facility plan. Again, another document. Our intent would be to share these documents, especially the 60 and the 90% with Connecticut DEP to solicit their input and make sure, we're obviously all on the same page.
90% they want to see what we're doing.
They would probably want to see it. And I think we've had success in doing that in the past, just to make sure that there's no surprises at the end. It's better to keep them engaged in the process as opposed to, furnish something towards the end without their buy-in. And then basically the process would culminate with a WPCA presentation, a formal one, really outlining the presentation or the findings from the facility plan. And then we would look to aim a submission to DEP shortly thereafter, towards the 12-month timeframe.
So how are man hours estimated in here? If we've got 12 tasks and let's say task number, I don't know, 6. Order of magnitude, what's OOCs? What's OOC?
Opinion of cost.
Opinion of cost. What happens if something, this is, I don't want to say this is a TNM, correct? How does this 42,000 or any of these other numbers work? What if all of a sudden you have 500 man hours in task number 6? And all of a sudden, because we either can't make up our mind or we add something or we just keep on talking and you exceed 500 man hours for that task, are you tracking man hours? How is that $42,000? It's always funny to me that it's $42,000. It's not $42,353.02.
Well, he'll have my head if I probably do that because he doesn't like things down to the penny.
You know why I do? Because it shows that I actually thought about the number. It's easy to go $42,000.
I get that. And the cash flow that's in front of you is just an estimate. So what we did is basically we took the 297,000 that we have for the contract value. And what we did is we looked at another facility planning effort that took 12 months.
Listen to me.
Okay.
I don't want $42,000. I want $42,353.
Okay. We can fine tune it as part of kind of I know, but the curve when we get that. Yeah.
Come on, Virgil, you should know me by now.
Well,
If you look at the fee summary though,
Eh?
it's a little less roundy. It's got, like 43,350.
That's better. Okay,
Okay,
I like that.
so
I like
look at
that.
that
I like that sheet then. All right, so that's my question is, that's my question then is how tied down are we to any number on here? And are you gonna tell us, guys, we've exceeded 500 man hours in task number 6? Are you okay with that? Because you know what happens? You get to the end and all of a sudden $297,000 turns into 5 or 6% more, 8% more. And all of a sudden, like I always tell everybody, I hate surprises. If it's going to be 5 or 8% more, I want to know. I want to know about it. I don't want to know about it at the very end when you say you send us the bill and say, oh, by the way, we're over by 8%. What? What do you mean we're over by 8%? You know what I'm saying?
That's I totally understand what you're describing here, and I've been in this business like over 40 years, so I have had a project or two where we've had more man hours needed than we budgeted. But we have seriously, we have some internal systems that we're using that where Doug is like looking at numbers pretty frequently, like on a monthly basis or even more
Weekly,
of a
yeah.
weekly basis. So he really has his finger on the pulse on how we're doing financially, as well as he knows how we're doing with respect to completing the work. So when you see those two start to, a gap form, then you have time to take some corrective action. And that's when we would come to you and say, Mike, we're 25% into this item and we're already like, it's, I can tell from experience that we're going to shoot way over unless we do something different. And so we would, engage you guys in a conversation and say either we need to drop something back or set something aside or find more money or do something else, so. But the bottom line there is something that will not change other than through some kind of formal, amendment process.
Like Virgil said, that's my job, tracking schedule, tracking budget, like you
We
alluded
have
to.
plenty of construction guys in this board You know, that that's our job. My job is tracking costs for my client.
Yep.
And if I'm not there, then I'm the knucklehead when I go to the next meeting. You ever have to try to pass the red face test? You know what the red face test is?
Yep.
So I have to pass it every month when I send my budget to my client. Oh, by the way, it's not a $14 million job. It's a $16 million job. What are you talking about? If I get it wrong, I'm the jerk. So I will definitely press on that one.
Yep.
You know. I'll let everybody else do all the other pushing. All right. Any other question for Virgil or Doug? Thanks.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you.
6 new business. We don't have them, but Matt, you wanted to talk about Langen's because we didn't vote on it last month, correct?
I know at the special meeting, you formally accepted the application. That sewer connection application for,
But did we have a quorum? We did have a quorum? Okay. So then,
you want me to? How would you like to handle this? Would you like me to present the results of our review?
did you do them already?
Yeah.
Yeah, why, sure, if you have copies, sure, sure. That's this one right here.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do this one. That's fine.
It's actually pretty quick. This one's-
Okay. Did you notify them that you were gonna be presenting this tonight?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. That's probably why they're not here, but I don't, they're not comments I think the applicant would have issues with, but
We can,
All right, let me ask the board, anybody else? Even, it's not on here.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do it, review this or do it next month?
I would wait until
I-
they're here.
Excuse me,
If
Mike?
they have
Yeah.
inputs,
I
you know what I'm
think you
saying?
should really,
Sorry to interrupt. Doug, now we're gonna leave unless you guys want us to stick around for anything.
No, we're all set, thanks. Virgil, I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I think it should be
Okay,
part of the agenda for next.
okay.
so we're
All
gonna
right,
wait.
they say, wait, they want it, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I gotta go pick up my dog.
All right, go, see ya.
This is good. Yeah.
All right, so, I just want to make sure that we're gonna do a special meeting sometime next week about the duration of the special meeting for duration of permit. And, oh, Matt.
Yeah.
Real quick. Are you gonna be at this meeting for the the duration? Yeah, okay, so we're gonna put on the agenda that will be item number 1, and number 2 is I want to talk about the flow allocations.
I heard a little side discussion before. I could send a copy of our spreadsheet that shows those number breakdowns.
Yeah, because I see sewer shed area 6 is over by 49,000. Bill's thinking it's wrong. I don't know the answer, but I said, huh?
So Ernie, when he.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying, I just can't see the numbers being
It
right.
doesn't match. Yeah.
Right.
At the end of, it was December of 2020, when Ernie started speaking how our connection application reviews. And that's, after that application is when we stopped showing that table every time we got a connection that we reviewed and sent to you. So, yeah, so the numbers between when we stopped and the updating it for you now is in that period. That's when the, like sewer shed 6, and I think there's another sewer shed, red.
Yeah. What was 6
So was
again?
it based off, remember they did a blow-up allocation around that time? When he had it done, we had the equipment upstairs, actually. Is that what this spreadsheet represents?
So that's based on, that's the application track that you can do for 20 years since the McGuire days.
Yeah.
And, you know, Plus and O'Neill's followed it up, followed the same method, Weston Sampson's taken over that same method, and we've just been.
The continuation.
It is continuation. But then that's what introduced to the stated planning, because there are all those kind of questions. Well, can we just tell people they can't connect? And what, do we have a leg to stand on?
That's the crux of this whole thing. I've been, and as you know, I've been I'm not gonna use the word fighting this, but my whole thing has been, can we tell somebody that in sewer shed number 6, they can't have any flow anymore and they're shut down? Now, from what I'm hearing from other people inside City Hall here, their answer is, yeah, go for it. I'm like, I agree with it. I don't have a problem with it. I want to make sure that we've thought about it and how it's going to work. If we're going to tell somebody, sorry, because part of the problem is we've already given somebody in sewer shed number 6, 49,000 more gallons than is allowed.
And, yeah, Doug and Virgil almost left just a little too early, because my hope with facility planning is that part of that document actually documents and explain scientifically what the allocation numbers are for each sewer shed, with some logic behind it, so you have a leg to stand on when you get sued by someone who you did not.
Right.
The documentation you have when that was created 20 years ago doesn't really apply anymore, because it's been tweaked by, the Tom.
Yeah.
Been tweaked with Ernie a little bit, and now at this point, you need to kind of take a fresh look at it.
That
It's
is something
impossible
that,
that we're the only town that has this. Somebody else has to have the same problem. No,
Other towns handle it differently. It's more based on, like I say, like a pump station bottleneck or a pipe bottleneck.
right.
And then, if you want to look at it during during a wet weather event, using some flow meter and says, hey, we're over capacity already on, this street or whatever. That's how they address it. But it's scientifically based. Like here, these numbers, it's hard to defend the numbers if we were to take it.
Right.
we just talked about this in our last meeting with Fuss and O'Neill about how there's some ambiguity in how we've arrived at, how scientifically we arrived at some of these numbers at this point. It might have started out making sense, but now it's kind of gotten a little confusing through the years.
There's so many people who picked it up and put it down.
Exactly. So we did mention that to Fuss and O'Neill, and they did say, okay, that deserves to be looked at.
So
We did discuss this with them.
historically, I don't know if you know the whole story. Historically, I had to go in front of the P and Z about I lost track of time. 10 or 12 years ago with our own internal plan. And McGuire helped me, and Thompson, when Tom was here, helped me put together this report to go report to P and Z. And we had, and I don't want to say this is when we started developing sewer shed areas. It could have been, I don't even remember anymore, but at any rate. So if we had in sewer shed area 1, we had this total flows. If we've changed these sewer shed areas probably, and I think you said it yourself, 7 or 8 times. And Pete, you've been around long enough to know that. Well, okay, well, no, we're not doing it anymore. So this is where we're going to need either your help or Fuss and O'Neill's help to say, that's it. Sewer shed area number 8. Yes, 185,000 gallons. That's it. That's the argument here within City Hall. And I totally agree with it, is that I'm tired of doing it. I presented it to P&Z that this is what we were going to do. And the comment was, well, let them sue us. I mean, okay, I'm going to, and I'll tell you that was the mayor. That's okay. Let them sue us. Okay. I'm on board with it, but you're going to have to fight it for us. But we have to make sure we have the documentation correct first.
Right, and Matt brings up a great point that by making it scientifically defensible, now
That's
you're
right.
ready. Okay, we can tell them, no. And then when they do sue us, we've got a leg to stand on, as Matt indicated, rather than saying, well, how did you come up with that there's nothing left in zone, 6?
Why
Well,
can't
how
I
did-
steal it from zone 11?
You see,
says
but
who?
that's exactly, see,
Says who that you have negative 50,000? Well, the science shows.
but here's the but. You're going to have a lot of smart attorneys out there, and Dominic Thomas is one of them. And there's other a lot of good. They're going to say, I don't care. You have 1,698,000 flow. I don't care if you don't have it in my sewer shed area. I get it first because that's first come, first serve. And here again, where I flip the coin and I say to the mayors, well, Mark, and I say, I look at this, well, I'm a developer. I don't care where it's coming from. And he says, and Mark says, I do. I said, okay, I'll buy it. I agree with you. So now we need to figure out
And that's where we have to defend it with,
Right.
well, hey, it's going to this such and such pump station. That can only accommodate however many
Right.
gallons and this and that, and the age of the pumps and how many, all of those things come into play. And we just have to know that as the defending argument.
But
right?
some of these developers, over the years, we have tried that. And their comment, you know it as well as anybody, is no problem. I'll put $100,000 into your pump station. Right, Garrett?
Yeah.
So, well, that one fell by the wayside. That one didn't work.
So Danielle's whole discussion there, her whole point. I basically, me and Ernie had that discussion and Ernie's like, so Matt, can you write like a 3-page memo for a couple $1,000s that, we can use that to defend ourselves? I said, no, Ernie, that's a bigger engineering effort, which would be part of a planning study. Just kind of push this whole process along, which I'm so happy to see it moving forward now. So now you're gonna have, that's gonna be an important component because it ties into the plant. And we just learned with DEP and EPA, they want to see some nutrient limits for sewer connections now, which is this kind of bonkers thing, if you ask me. So you gotta work that in there. So it is a more thoughtful process, but at the time, the city didn't want to pay the effort it would take to do that analysis properly.
Well, here's what my comment is, and here's where I depend on Ashley and Bill, is these guys have done a great job on this sheet of all the projects that we have, and Ashley's done a really nice job of saying, okay, here's a job that was approved. It's in construction. Here's $200,000 for the benefit connection charge. And that's going to go eventually to our bottom line of our capital sinking fund money. So that's, we've been because let's face it, $2.4 million isn't going to take us that far for that long. And that's why we need to start thinking about all these different things that we need to do. And it sounds like even Virgil potentially with this, his thing, he can help us with this somehow in that document that they're going to do. That we only have 2.4, but I'm going to ask Ashley, hey, Ash, how much do we have coming up this 6 months? Hey, Mike, we got 300,000 coming. Oh, great. Okay. This is the pre-planning stuff that we all need to be doing like now, if we're going to do this 12-month thing with Fuss and O'Neill. All right. I don't have anything else unless anybody else does.
Like this, special meeting is gonna include the EDU price, the 2,100 or.
No, we're just going to talk about the duration of how long somebody can do a project
At this price.
not at 2,100, at the current price,
Current price right now.
at the current price, not the old price.
26.
Correct.
The price of gas, price of trucking, the price of everything, electricity, all goes up.
Yeah.
5 years ago, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So why should this guy get 2,100? Because he procrastinated on that job.
Yeah, right.
It's not our fault.
All right, motion from Mr.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. You guys, next week, if anybody wants to, Ashley,